I think the way that we could possibly coexist as a whole in this country would be we just need to reach out to people, try and understand each other in a way.
You know, we all have different backgrounds, we've all walked different paths, and that's what makes America great.
And yes, he's different than me. And that's what makes it so great that we can meet each other, you know?
You may have different values, different morals, but you're a person just like me. And I always find that we can find something in common, always.
Everyone needs to feel like they have theirs, right? So if you're in a tent, you want to have yours. If you're at a house, you want yours. And if you're struggling and you have your children and you're trying to make ends meet, you are wanting to have yours. And so what brings us all together is allowing and giving the opportunity for folks to have theirs.
The other side of the lake where I live, they had to cut down a bunch of trees, and there's bears living in the trees and near them. And then they moved to the other side of the lake, but they had nowhere to go because their home was cut down.
So being back in my house now, it's a tough thing because there's no coming back here. You know, you could rebuild the town, but if you just rented, as I did, and you didn't have renter's insurance, then your life is totally turned upside down. In my case, you lose your job, your home, and all you have is your life. That's something to be thankful for, but where do you go and what do you do?
I had one guy come up to my truck at one of my food giveaways, and he walked up to my truck and said, "Sir, I'm glad you got here when you did." I said, "I have 4 kids at home, a wife, no job, I'm disabled, I don't have no food. I was getting ready to go out and rob somebody to feed my family."
It's just rough out here in these cities, these streets. You got homeless people out here, you got low income, and on top of that, you got the police, and they harass people.
We live in a society where it's set up to keep people down when they need help. And it's our job to help them. I'm getting emotional here, we need to stop. You know, you drive down the street, you see a man or a woman with no shoes on their feet. What do?
Each and every one of us, within us, God has given the ability to help somebody in some way or the other. I think if each of us collaborate and say, I can do this particular thing for somebody, I think the world would be a much better place.
So when we have enough, when we are given what we need to fulfill our basic needs, the instinct of a human being as a naturally heart-centered expression of divinity is to share that with others.
So it's our job as a people who have been blessed to be able to work, have a place to live, and to see people who are struggling and knowing that they're struggling, it's our job to see what we can do to help them. And this is on a daily basis. It's not, you know, you have churches that will feed people once a year or once a month, but this is an everyday thing.
I get up every day and I have a purpose. People say, when you retire, you better have something to do. Well, I haven't missed that. I've retired and I came back to where I always was. At night, My head goes into my pillow pretty easy because I'm pretty sure that I've helped somebody and that I've done something good for this community.
And so if we're going to coexist, it means the folks who are housed and the folks who are unsheltered and the businesses and the institutions and the cities, the municipalities, the agencies, the public agencies, that we all work cooperatively to build something that is very hyperlocal, neighborhood-based.
So it's not as if the world needs to learn how to respect, it's that the world needs to have its basic needs fully met. And when basic needs are met, whether by someone being generous to you or you finding that generosity towards yourself, from that space, respect is an intrinsic expression of our soul's reality.
So all I ask is that people can stay close to their friends and family, because we're in a bad time right now where a lot of people are losing hope.
Is your family your immediate family? My daughter, my beautiful grandchildren? Or is it the size of your culture, your neighborhood, your culture? Or the world? What is it? Where is the point where your empathy stops?
Because it's not about us. It's not about us. It's about them little kids.
All children need a home, parents, and love.
Children, they are the ones who are being impacted the most because they have this fear of like, well, I'm not sure if when I go back from school, I'm going to see my parents again.
And in our country, we never know when something is going to open up or when something is going to close down. But I want them to be ready for when it opens, that they have their education and that they can take on the fortunes that are being provided for them.
As a teacher, you don't necessarily always want to speak for the kids. You want to give them the words and language to do that on their own.
To talk, to say what you're feeling, to say what you believe, because if people hear that you actually want to talk about it, you want to have a voice, then they're going to listen.
It's not about having a voice like Leontine Price or Marian Anderson or whoever. It's about whatever, it's about the unique timbre of your voice and what you have to say with it.
So many times we get down on ourselves and it's always that nagging voice in our head that's telling us we're not good enough or like we can't do it, and that's partially because society has told us we can't, right? Or we have limits. But for me, I would like these kids to know that they don't have limits and that there are people to help support them and they have that in their peers if they need it.
You know, I get, deep inside I get very emotional when I talk about them because I feel like these kids have been like my own. I mean, Uli was with me since he was 6 years old. And that's when you say you grow with the town, you know, and you're in a small town and you keep hanging around, you're gonna see the kids that you've had now playing soccer in your program. And that nobody can surpass that. There's no money, you know, there's no money. Soccer for us here, for me, it's not a business, it's a vehicle. And that's how I like to look at it. It's a vehicle for better things, not a business. I don't make any money out of this.
Everybody is somebody's child. And that's a good thing to remember, because if you have children, and even if you don't, if you want to do well, make sure that other people's children do well. And I had a marvelous example at that. In my own mother. She's no longer with me physically, but because of her, I've been able to keep my chin up in life. So, it's extremely important to encourage what the talent and time and energy that we have on this earth in whatever form it comes in. I don't care whether the person is black or white or someplace in between. I don't care if they're poor. I don't care if they're physically or mentally disabled or not. They have something to share. And you don't ever know, you never know what difference that person might make in the world. As I said earlier, we all inspire one another somehow.
Well, I feel like it's a good thing, like, to like be grown up, because like that means like you survived.
I hear these comments being made on a daily basis about our leader and how he hates this group or is saying this, and you don't want that example for kids, right? You don't want them to learn to hate others. You want them to learn to love and understand others.
I feel like if somebody's like being racist to somebody, it could like make them like feel unhappy and like make them like want to do something bad to themselves.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about young black males, I think, more than anything, because I know that they're viewed as a threat in this society, and I have 5 sons.
Well, first of all, we have to acknowledge that there is an inequality. We have to all be in agreement that there is a problem, you know, and it is, yeah, partly racial. No, it is racial, you know. Yeah, we need to acknowledge that that exists, because that's our first problem. A lot of people don't, you know, people in our government look at it and, you know, there's no problem. So the acknowledgement is first. The second thing is, I don't know, dealing with it.
I thought when he got elected, I said, he's going to show us who we really are. And I think that has happened for people who have been racist and sort of in the closet with it. There was a lot of freedom to just not be afraid. The President of the United States has given me permission to say how I feel.
Right when I moved to Asheville, someone yelled at me, "Go back to your country," and a motorist passing by, not someone who I could actually engage in an intelligent conversation about how ludicrous that was.
One big solution to our problem would be really focusing on our nation's history and not looking at it with like rose-colored glasses, you know, like make America great again. You know, who was America great for? You know, looking back.
To us kids, for no reason, we were taken away from our parents and put into boarding school. This was done automatically to the children of anyone carrying a tribal identification card.
America doesn't look at their shadow. And the shadow started with the genocide of the indigenous people. And then with the slavery. So where one part of human proved to the other part, we are better and we have the right to take your life and your property. That is not really understood and worked through in this country.
Everybody's an immigrant. Ain't nobody purely American. We took these from the Indians. We took these lands from part of California is Mexico, and we took that from them.
So we are living in a stolen land, and we should be more inclusive and welcoming with people.
America is not as great as they think it is. It could be great. This nation could be amazing. You know, we could do so much better in terms of a lot of different things. But first we need to acknowledge that we're not that great. We're not great for everybody.
I think the key to coexisting is not making somebody else's identity or like traits or something your problem, unless it is hurting you or somebody, as I've said, because it's not. And as long as it makes them happy and it does not affect anybody else in a negative way, then just mind your own business.
I had my Trump hat I was very proud of and wore it into a store, and the customer there was very upset that I was wearing a Trump hat, and he was furious that I held up any support for Trump at all. And he told the store owner he was furious and they should never allow any Trump holder to be in that store. So after he left, the store owner said, "Would you please not wear your hat anymore in our store?"
Having been raised in the Baptist church in the time when it was still the Dark Ages, as far as being gay is concerned. And then came the stigma in the 80s of AIDS. And I actually did have an adopted sibling who was also gay, who died of AIDS. And I thought I would never hear the end of that. I kept hearing from my dad, if you don't straighten up and fly right and get married to a woman and have children, then you'll end up just like your brother.
I think the reason that people discriminate or push people down is most likely the way that they were brought up or just their belief system, because a lot of people grow up in a world where this is the only way that it can be, and this is the only thing that you can believe, and they don't understand that there's other ways.
My dream was not to be president. My dream as a teenager in Iowa was to be the mistress of the president. I thought that would be pretty neat. It never crossed my mind that I could be president. I didn't entertain the possibility I could be president. It wasn't on the blackboard. It wasn't in the newspapers. It wasn't, you just didn't think in those ways.
Typically speaking, when I am at a table of leaders and there's somebody there, I have been asked to be the one, if I'm the only female in the room, asked to take the notes from the meeting. I'm along with my peers, but I'm subjected to that kind of ask. Oftentimes when I was, younger, a lot of men would look me up and down, and we just were not asked to work on the projects that were really impactful to the company. And when asked why, it was, how about you support this person, So I would say it's every cliche in the book is what I experienced, is I had to kind of fight a little bit harder than my male counterparts in getting particular projects that would impact the business.
For more and more women to be stepping up and saying, no, that's not okay. I'm loving that aspect of this, but I believe we have a long ways to go.
There have been times where we've been a lot more polarized than this. I think we're just paying attention a little bit more to how polarized, it's acknowledged, we know it now. Yeah, it's always been like this, and we need to change that.
There's a tendency to go, okay, well, I gotta find a group to belong to, because more important than knowing who you are, it's to belong to something, right? Because if you belong to something and you're accepted, it doesn't matter who you are. That's kind of the vibe of America. So that's why it's easier to get caught up in the fad, or it's easier to say you're a part of a specific group. It's easier to disconnect than it is to actually connect if you don't know who you are.
I'm mixed, so growing up I had to look at things from two perspectives. I couldn't just look at things from, because my dad black, I can't look at it from I'm fully black perspective, and my mama's white, so I gotta look at it from her perspective too. And it's like, you gotta put your whole 100%, your essence in everything you say and do.
We tend to flock together with our own crowd. And if you're a liberal, you have your crowd, and if you're conservative, you have your crowd. And there's a lot of comfort in that, because it's very uncomfortable to come together and talk.
Unity is huge to me, because I'm learning that society kind of doesn't like unification. They want people separated and bickering with each other.
Well, you just have to work it out, or you go through a frightful stalemate like we've experienced here in this country with the shutdown of the government. It is senseless to shut down the daily operation of the federal government because you can't agree on some aspect of a program the president wants or the Congress wants and the president doesn't want. So you've got to learn to reconcile those differences in such a way as to not inflict greater harm on the people that must daily live within this structured system that we have.
People know who their senator is. People know who their congressman is, their representative. That is new, because people did not pay attention to that kind of thing before. And now, yeah, I remember the last election, the local election, not even the presidential election, the local election for the governor, for the congressman that would represent our district. It was a record turnout. You couldn't get in there. It was a long line of people. We were in there for hours waiting to vote. It was incredible. That's good. That's how it's supposed to be. And I'm happy to see that people are paying attention, you know? So that honestly gives me hope for the future, you know, just to see people exercising their rights as citizens, you know? Now the other thing, we just gotta educate them so that they know who they're voting for. That's another thing.
There's too many people work all day, come home, sit down to 30 minutes of news a night and base their whole value system or their information or whatever on what someone's opinion is on television. And I think that's scary because if we don't inform ourselves, then shame on us. And I don't care whether you're 16 years old or you're 60 years old, it's your responsibility to inform yourself. Then make your decision based on what value system you have, and that's fine with me, but make an informed decision.
Be more informed about what's going on in this country, not like letting you just following the news or the media, what they are saying, but actually be there in the community.
Yo vine a este país en el 2005 y con sueños, como todo mundo viene con muchos sueños aquí a este país para una vida mejor, para sacar a mi familia adelante. He sido una mujer muy sufrida porque el papá de mis hijos lo mataron en el 2000. Yo tenía que sacar 6 hijos adelante. Trabajé muy duro, pero gracias a Dios he sacado mi familia adelante. No es fácil, pero sí se puede.
When people are allowed to just come in or across our borders freely, we don't know who's coming in. And that is a security risk. I fear for that as a husband and a father, because I don't want to live in fear from someone bad coming to our country, whether to do harm to people on the streets or to do something violent in a big way. That scares me.
El presidente Trump, él no quiere a los inmigrantes, no los quiere. Él siempre está diciendo que va a construir el muro y todo eso. Y bien difícil de parar porque la gente con hambre siempre va a querer cruzar, siempre. Por el hambre de uno quiere sacar adelante a su familia. Entonces no va a ser... Él está poniendo muchas leyes y todo eso porque él quiere salir con su objetivo. Y sí, viene mucha gente que también hace daño, pero también así venimos gente pobre, gente luchadora. Y por unos pocos él quiere culparlos a todos, y no es así. No todo el mundo viene a hacer cosas malas. Aquí venimos, la mayoría venimos a trabajar porque tenemos que sacar adelante a nuestra familia. Entonces, estamos viviendo momentos bien difíciles con este presidente, porque hay mucho racismo, Demasiado racismo.
I think it's important to control our immigration. We, Statue of Liberty is there. Bring unto us your needy. We try as best we can to assimilate within our society a limited number of people from time to time who want to come here and constructively make their life here in this United States.
I don't think we per se need a wall, but we need something that will stop the flow of illegal immigration.
Before the white people came, there were no borders. It's all political. So there's the white people saying, we need a wall to protect my country from those brown people. You know how that affects me.
Immigration is a really hard topic for people to talk about that, but sometimes there are so many conflicts, especially we engage with the political view. And it shouldn't be that political. We should be more human and sensibilize the community to say, everyone has rights and we are all humans. There is no different, regardless of the color of your skin, we are the same.
Todos somos iguales en el mundo. Todos pensamos, vemos, oímos, olemos, caminamos. Y yo creo que no debería existir los muros. No debería de existir nada de eso. Creo que Dios hizo el universo, la tierra, y no hay por qué dividirnos. Deberíamos de ser todos igual. Somos iguales.
Every human being which is alive is worth to be treated as a dignified version of a being. And it doesn't matter how he or she looks, it doesn't matter how he or she or it has preferences, it is just the fact. Every human being which is born is worth to be treated with respect.
We're taught to always look 7 generations into the future. Prepare life for those who are coming 7 generations from now, so they have a good place to live. And despite our greatest efforts, unfortunately the people who abuse this earth are not listening, and we're trying to adapt.
Recognize that we're in change. Try to isolate the causes, and I think it's directly attributable to the pollution that we put in as individuals and companies and manufacturing into the atmosphere. And we have got to come to grips with a more realistic balance between conducting our life, our businesses and so forth activities, and having minimal impact on Mother Nature's framework of climate.
If you force people into living a sustainable lifestyle, they'll do it half-heartedly, only when somebody's looking. But if they decide to do it on their own, then they'll give it 100% and it'll be real. So that's where we need to go, but how to do it, I'm not sure.
We got to get to know each other. We got to communicate with each other. We got to talk.
Yeah, we need to listen to each other.
Listen to the views of others.
Because politics, religion, all that stuff, people don't talk about it here. It's real taboo to discuss politics with anyone, to discuss religion with anyone. Because I don't know, there are people here that will, look down their nose if you're not Christian, or they'll look down their nose if you're gay, or you look down your nose if you're Republican or Democrat, So I think what's important is, you know, in our educations, when we're teaching children, when we're teaching adults, how to have a civil discourse on politics, on religion, how to talk about these things without literally hating the person, you know, wanting to, like, I don't know, resorting to insults, you know, hating people. You know, we should be able to talk about these things because we're basically trying to figure out what we're trying to do here and how to create the best life, the best quality of life for everyone here. So, yeah, we need to figure out how to do that, and we just don't. And I don't think we ever have, to be honest. We never have.
All these issues are very passionate to all of us. We all have our opinions. If we could sit down and just have a logical conversation and just talk. But what that's going to take is people with open minds. That means I have to be open to your opinion and you have to be open to mine. And we somehow have to not fight about it. Because we get so impassioned about these things, it's really hard not to get upset and angry or whatever. But I truly believe we have way more in common than we do separate.
People need to stop fighting.
In addition to that, if we can have softer interaction where we're willing to talk with each other, past the usual labels, past the usual snapshot idea of who the other one is, where we're willing to dialogue with an open heart. I think that's the role of compassion, is that open heart. And if we can be brave enough to say, I care about what you have to say, I care about listening to what you have to say.
Being aware of the needs of others, being respectful of their contrary point of view, and doing the best you can to reach a common understanding. That's the essence of a democracy.
And that's going to take us having to stop listening to the outside influences and let's talk together as people and not as a label, not a conservative, not a liberal, not a whatever the label may be. Let's drop our labels and just talk.
You might not always agree on everything, but you can leave it at that, understanding that it's not going to be a problem that's going to be understood by both parties, and just kind of walk away and move from there and respect each other's opinions, and that they're going to be different because we do have different backgrounds and experiences that kind of lead up to that.
Just driving down the freeway with road rage and everybody's business, my business is more important than the other person. They don't care about the other person. I'm only worried about me and what I'm doing. It's all about me and, up yours to the next guy. We need to get back to a more caring and care about each other and try to help each other and communicate. You do that by talking, not just slamming the door. And we need to compromise to make everything work.
How do you get to peace between people who don't see the same world, and they certainly don't see each other accurately? The first thing, the most powerful thing, is communication. Face to face if you can. But it's communication. It's communication connection. And that very thing is what makes a shift in your consciousness. You can no longer hold as an enemy who's someone who you find out is exactly like you. You can't hold that person as an other.
We can heal the deep cuts through this society with the fact that we love ourselves. And that doesn't come down to an arrogant love. It comes down to a non-attached love. Like, I love this body, but this body isn't actually mine. It's of the earth, but the earth isn't even mine. I exist way beyond that, and so does every other being. And I think, actually, I know that that will happen. And it's gonna happen with a lot of disputes, because people get attached to their ideas and people get attached to the mind and the ego saying, this is the way this is. But I really know that that can change and that will change. It just takes one person showing up one day and saying, I'm going to choose to love myself instead of hating myself. And that ripples.
Life is what you make it. It's rough. It's not a diamond. It's not complete. You have to put the puzzle together. You can't just expect God to lay out the path before you and tell you you have to do all 10 steps before you even know what 10 steps he even tells you. You have to listen with your heart and your brain before you even talk, because a lot of people will say things and do things and don't mean it at the end of the day.
I think it takes a lot of courage to live life, to get up and face every day, even in the best circumstances. And I think it's really important that we all do what we can to get up and face every day, to care for ourselves, care for our family and friends, care for our neighborhood, our community. These are obvious things. They're small things, actually. But I think it's important to never think that that's easy. It's hard. And the more that we can recognize that we're moving together through life on this planet, that we're interdependent, to use the technical term in the Buddhist tradition, we're interdependent. We can't do it without each other.
I know this may sound silly, but just love one another. That solves a lot of our problems. Because you have challenges, I have challenges. If we could love one another more, I think we come together more.
Love is like huge, Love conquers all. Love is the strongest vibration. Love will always find a solution. It's gentle, kind.
The love has no language. Like there could be cultural differences, but if it is genuine and real, the concern and the care will go across borders, will go across your hearts. And you sometimes don't need to, you never underestimate that, oh, this person doesn't understand my language or doesn't understand my culture, so maybe I cannot communicate with that person. If your care is genuine and if your feelings are true, that will reach each and every heart. It will go through and they will understand you, they will share with you, they will come to you, even though despite those barriers.
If we have these thoughts in our mind about a person or a group of people, we're going to act them out. So we have to be transformed. We have to have a new mindset. Get rid of the old mindset. If it's negative, if it's bad, if it's prejudice, get rid of it. And develop a new mindset towards people and towards those who are struggling. It's all in the mind.
I think everybody's belief systems are questionable. You can always break it down and say, is this absolutely true? Is this 100% true, what I'm thinking right now? Okay, you can always break that down to no.
Practice, detachment, and perspective. You can't get perspective unless you detach in a manner. I'm not saying forget about everything that's going on. I'm saying zoom out so you can see the whole thing instead of that little bitty piece you keep concentrating on.
So it's all about changing our thought process. If we're not helping somebody, think about helping somebody. If you're making fun of somebody, think about not doing it.
And I think there has been more of that people are getting together in more diverse groups and they are trying to learn each other. And I think overall understanding that deep down we all are same.
If you look in the Bible, it says we are all created equal. That means we're all the same. We were all created the same. We all have the same heart. We all bleed the same blood.
To be willing and able to not turn away as often as possible, to be able to look and see what's in front of us and keep our heart open to some degree and be willing to interact, that is another bridge across our differences because we meet as human beings.
if we all have our goal to, feed the 7th generation, we'll do it together, and the differences won't matter as much.
It's just beyond our differences, and that there is a common ground that we can share.
Maybe there's a way around these chopped up scenes and bits of sound. It's left, it's right, it's up, it's down to me. And in this show and how we know we've changed so much, be friend or foe. We felt the touch, we saw the glow, you see. But I can't remember last December. I can't recall spring, summer, or fall. Round about September, I was sifting through the embers, caught upon the menders, but couldn't help it all. Couldn't help it all. The sky so bright, to this delight, we sat right down and stayed the night. We talked of things by firelight today. And on the stage, from time to time, what's mine was yours was mine. It's hard as hell, but so divine, you see. Now you won't remember last December, you won't recall spring, summer, or fall. Round about September, you'll be sifting through the embers, caught upon the menders, but they won't help at all. We won't remember last December, we won't recall spring, summer, or fall. Round about September, we'll be sifting through the embers, call upon the menders, but they won't help at all. Won't help at all. Won't help at all. Won't help at all. Won't help at all.
We're a blessed nation, believe me. We are a blessed nation. America is a blessed nation. But we could be so much better too.